All right, looks like recording started. So 7:32 on my clock. Let's call this thing to order.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Miss Anthony?
Present.
Miss Bright?
Present.
Miss Clement?
Present.
Miss Shaw?
Present.
And Mr. Stevie?
I am here.
Let me try to move my screen. Okay.
We get a motion of view and approval of the meeting minutes from the last time we met, which was like last week, right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Back in March, geez.
Yeah.
Been a minute.
Grace, that might have to be you. I think the rest of us were not present.
Oh,
I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the previous meeting in March.
guess I'll second that as one that was there. Got to a vote. Favor?
Aye.
Ayes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, Maria, that sounds like that passed unanimously. I'll do a quick call to the audience. Is there anyone on this call currently that is not affiliated with the city, this design review board, or the case at hand? Would like to address the board? Hearing none, Maria, let's move on to item 4, our case of the day.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have with us Nick Ross from zoning. Nick, would you like to introduce a project?
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Give me a second here. All right. And Maria, are you the one controlling the screen here?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
Thanks. Can you just scroll down a little? Okay, perfect. Thanks. I think I'm on a little bit of a delay here. All right. Good morning, DRB. Thank you for the opportunity to present you this project. We've had a recent proposal over at the Bridges site, which is pad 15, for a large retail establishment. It is a Bass Pro Shop. The applicant's request, the Benchmark Group on behalf of the property owner is proposing a new large retail establishment, general merchandise sales land use on a 12.8 acre vacant lot with 103,000 square feet of retail space and boat service center in a 1-story, 160 feet high building. The project site is located within the boundaries of the Bridges planned area development, again, pad 15. Pad 15 Design Review Committee review. As required by Pad 15, the proposal was reviewed by the PAD's DRC on February 28th, 2024. I'm getting a bunch of echo here.
Yes.
Okay, that's better. Thank you. For compliance with the large retail establishment criteria specified in Pad 15, Section C.2.2.C.2. The DRC approved the project with the suggestion that the applicant examines the potential for an improved pedestrian linkage between the store and the existing hotel to the immediate west. Jumping to the DRB's purview, in accordance with UDC Section 4.9.9.D.3, all proposed large retail establishments shall be reviewed by the DRB for recommendation to the Planning and Development Services Department Director, who will then make a recommendation on whether the project complies with the applicable use-specific standards. The DRB will base its recommendation on whether or not the project complies with the use-specific standards related to compatibility, architecture, and site design as provided in Section 4.9.9.D, Large Retail Establishment Design Standards. See Attachment A. where specific requirements are not provided by PAD 15. The DRB's purview in this case is only UDC section 4.9.9.d.1. The applicant shall be responsible for providing all documentation and information necessary to show compliance, such as, but not limited to, site plans, building elevations, landscaping plans, floor plans, and outdoor lighting photometry plan.
And I think that's that. Thank you, Nick. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Nick, I have one question. I heard within your opening statement a request from a prior board to provide some better circulation patterns. Has this plan been updated to reflect that request, or is this we're reviewing the exact same set of plans?
That is an excellent question. Let me verify with our project manager, who was unable to make it in to this call, but I do have them kind of on standby for some questions. So I will get you that answer here shortly. I apologize, I don't have it handy at this time.
Because reading through our requirements, that might be something we touch on here in this conversation again.
Agreed.
And if it's something that's being addressed or has already been addressed, that would be pertinent information.
Hello, yes, in the opening statement, you also have the building listed as 160 feet. It's just 60 feet high.
That's correct. That's a typo.
My mistake. Thank you. My apologies.
It's not the first high-rise Bass Pro Shop ever.
That'd be kind of cool, but no, unfortunately it's only 60 feet.
I got my hopes up. I guess with that, let's if there's no other questions from the board for Nick, let's move on to applicant presentation. Or if they're not here, or if there's someone to step us through the plan.
Marie, is that my cue?
Yeah, that's your cue, Scott. So
Okay,
feel
thank
free
you.
to share your screen and walk the DRB through your project.
Okay, good morning. My name is Scott Ward. I am the production architect, the architect of record for this store. And so I've got, can everybody see that screen? So this is our, the Tucson, Arizona Bass Pro Shops. The first item on the 4.9.9 point D A is vehicular access. We have multiple areas around the site with access to the site from the different areas of the. So we are around Costco, the hotel, and the commercial areas up front, and then the main development coming up to the middle of the project. The project is surrounded by commercial development on all sides, and on the west is the Interstate 10 corridor. We do not have any outdoor storage on this particular project. Trash collection area. We do have two compactors. They are in this space right here, and they are behind a wall and a gate. So they are completely enclosed to the view around them. Pedestrian flow, and this comes to the point of that the DRC had asked about developing access from this hotel area right here on the right into the site. We did not find an area where that could happen beyond just simply going into our parking area and then walking over through those pedestrian access ways. So on the west side, we have the bike trail. And we've developed a little space right here. On the east side, we have the main entrance into the store from the main development space, and then we have cross access between the front of the store and the bike trail. And in here. And then we have these open spaces. Item F, central features and community space. We have several public spaces around the site. This is one of the areas that is in the front parking area, and it leads to the sidewalks that lead to the front of the store. And this is a view of it facing the store. That's the front of the store. Following the DRC's design with benches and then other elements as part of the development. In the front of the store, we have a large plaza area. And then, as you can see right here, with landscaping on either side and then around. This is the main entrance. This is the exit. And this is the boat display area over here. This is the northeast corner. So that this is another gathering space with landscaping, and then our boat, outdoor boat display area is off here to the left. Again, we have benches, and in these areas we also have bike racks. And this is the same area, just a different view. Looking back, this is the outdoor boat showroom, which will have a canopy and solar panels over it here on the left. This is the public space off the bike trail. So this is the west side as the bike trail. We have shade kiosks in this area as part of it. And this is a view looking at the store from the kiosks. There we are again with the bike trail. Delivery and loading spaces. Our loading dock is completely out of view of the public. It is behind this element of the building right here. And then from the west, it's hidden by the actual loading area. And on the south side, we have the fenced-in outdoor boat showroom. That's over there. So it is out of the area. These are general elevations. We do have a request that we wanted to bring to your attention from the Arizona Department of Transportation to update the traffic study. The last update for the traffic study in this development was in 2018, and they did ask, and we have received a proposal for doing that, and that is in the works. So we are getting a new traffic study for the development with the addition of the parking load that the Bass Pro Store will provide to the area. The next element, outdoor lighting. We do have a photometrics. It's in the package that was sent to you. The lights are 90 degrees and they are dark sky compliant throughout the project. Outdoor sales space. We have, let me see if I can head back here. Yeah, okay. All right. So outdoor displays, we have basically 3. We have one in the front by the area where the boat, indoor boat sales area is right here. We have along the west side, along the interstate. And we have a development at the end of the clear story where we will have an indoor display for a boat. And then we have the outdoor boat showroom, which is right here, this side of the building, on the south side. So those are basically the only display areas, outdoor display areas that we have on the project. Hazardous materials, there will be a hazardous material plan, and that will be provided to the Tucson Fire group. Noise abatement, we don't feel like there should be any issues with noise abatement. As we said, we are completely surrounded by commercial. We do not have residential nearby. We have landscaping around the site and fencing around the equipment on the outside of the building. So we feel like that should cover any noise development. Combination of retail with food and beverage, we do not have, nor would we plan on having any food and beverage sales on site. Now, Maria, you'd mentioned that you did not necessarily want to go into the aesthetics character of the building. Do we want to talk a little bit about the look of the building or
Yeah,
not?
the purview of the DRB is B1, but do please feel free to show them any other details on your project, or Mr. Chair, unless you think we don't need to.
I don't know if it'd be nice just to give context, but it's not something we need to dwell on to deep dive into.
Okay. Well, we do have basically exterior wise, we have multiple elevations, multiple sloped roof areas in the front of the building. There is in the package we sent a legend of the materials that we're going to be using. The main walls are a textured stucco. Then there is stone at the base. There's a stone wall around on the front. Let me see if I can get a better view here for that. Yeah, there we go. And wood siding. So this is a timber siding up here, textured stucco, and then the stone. And then we have log wraps and timbers throughout. And that's basically it, unless you have any questions.
No, thanks for that. I appreciate your time and effort putting your what you just went through kind of based on what our review criteria are instead of just launching into a 15 minutes about Bass Pro Shops. So that's appreciated, kind of showing us what we're looking at and how you guys have addressed all those items. At this time, we're going to open it up to questions from the board. Was that Carol? I can't see that. Like,
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
I
it
got to
is.
squinch my
Hi.
screen a little different here. See,
That's
Let's
okay.
just free for all. I'm not going to call on people if you. Let's just feed adults.
Okay. Are we in this review, are we, as part of our purview to review site plans? I believe it is in reading 4.9.9. Correct, Maria, or am I wrong?
Mr. Chair, Ms. Clement, yes, the DRB's purview is specified in 4993, and it does include, that the DRB, let me see, where is that? Where did I read that? And I'm sorry, I'm not too familiar with this section of the
okay.
code.
Yeah,
Let me read through it.
Yeah,
Carol,
I read.
not to jump in. Carol, is your question whether we're going to look at other plans besides photo renderings? Is that what you're?
Well, yes, I reviewed the packet that Maria sent us, and I'm of particular interest is the site grading plan, and of course, as always, the planting plan.
Correct.
So
I'm hoping.
I'm not sure if digging into the planting plan and like planting types are part of our official purview. We could give some recommendations or some part of our conversation. I also was looking at some of the grading that, and I know exactly where you're heading. So yeah. I think we might get there if we just maybe move through some of these questions. There's I thought there was a section, maybe that was in the last one that you sent, Maria, before, that had some other materials in there.
Yeah, they actually had their site plans, and maybe I don't know how to proceed here, but at some point during this meeting, I would like to talk about those two things, grading and in particular, the planting palette. Yeah,
I think I noticed that too. And when I read through yesterday and the day before through our criteria that we're looking for, like those types of items aren't really covered or don't really feel like they're items that we have input on in this review. But I'd like to figure out a way to incorporate some of that into our conversation.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Clement, members of the DRB, and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. The way I'm reading here, the DRB's purview, going back to your question, Ms. Clement, so it's basically here, right? Yeah. The DRB will base its recommendation on whether or not the project complies with the use-specific standards related to compatibility, architecture, and site design, as provided in 499D. And then there's this bottom part, right, of the different review materials the applicant needs to provide, which includes landscape plans.
Okay, thank you.
The thing is that this is PAD 15. They went through rezoning some time ago, and basically when a planned area development is created, it's its own zoning code. So they need to demonstrate compliance with the requirements established by the PAD 15. But the UDC also mentions that whenever a planned area development is silent, then UDC requirements will kick in that are not addressed by the PAD. So that's why you're here. So after talking to the zoning administrator determined that the items where the PAD is silent is the items listed in 499D1. And that's why that's the purview of the DRB. But again, you're looking at the project in a holistic way as an overall side, and you can provide recommendations to the PDSD director, like you've done with other cases. You know, you need to focus on D1, on what's included on attachment A, but you can also add other recommendations as you see it fit to the PDSD director for her consideration. And that's the way I see it, Nick.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Thanks, Maria and Mr. Chair, members of the board. The pad is silent on items A through M listed in section 499D1. So that's really what we're looking to review this for compliance. So if you do have other concerns or comments outside of those items, you're more than welcome to list those. However, the purview of the board really lies within those items A through M listed in 499D1.
Oh.
And those are all site-related items.
Could you, my screen is only showing this down to section B. Could you screen down on your shared screen? Thank you. Keep going. Stop. Okay, well, I think my comments might be recommendations because the plants, I'll just say it now, some of the plants in the selected plant palette are not going to make it. They are not resilient species for the site conditions. So, you know, for whatever that's worth. And also the grading in terms of water harvesting could be greatly improved. I don't know where to go from here, but I don't know what to do next.
I agree with that. I did want to suggest maybe looking at these bullets, like the trash collection area. I was wondering if they are complying with that. If we could, and then I think maybe pedestrian flow, we could get into the landscaping.
Okay.
Because it touches on landscaping in that section. But with the trash collection, it mentions a screen of 8 feet in height and of masonry construction. And what I saw in the renderings, it was not, I don't know what the height is. And the construction seemed to be wood. Is that correct?
The gates, the actual gates that swing are wood. Mm-hmm. The wall that's coming off the building is 10 feet high, and it is a tilt wall with a stucco finish and stone at the base.
Great. Okay. I just wanted to check that.
Sure. And so it matches the main wall of the west side.
Do we want to scroll down to the pedestrian flow, section E?
Actually, Paige, I'm not done with that section. I noticed in review of the plans, there is a masonry wall being provided on one side of that enclosure. I believe if you have the whole thing around site plan C200, we'll show this condition, at least partially, but trying to orient myself again. I want to call it south, but it's kind of south-ish. The south-ish wall is concrete wall, but on the north side, the opposite side of the enclosure, it is showing just landscape area for the depth of that enclosure.
Maria, can I share my screen?
Please do.
So this space right here, we have the tilt wall comes out. This is the gate. This is the compactor area right here.
Correct.
Then there's a wall that runs along here too. So the whole thing is enclosed.
Your site plans are not showing where your cursor is now, the dark green. From there to where your fence comes in is open landscape.
Okay.
Where that tree is shown.
Then it'll need to be updated because yeah, this is all.
Yeah, that right there, that little section you were just hovering right there is not shown having any material.
Okay.
Blocking it off. So we have to make sure we add a masonry wall on that curb line there.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be from this corner because this is actually part of the building. So from this corner over.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. It should be there. It was intended to be there.
It may be just a graphics thing. I'm trying to find where that wall would be called out on this plan set. I remember seeing it, but I'm scrolling through. Graphically, I can see where it is, but it looks like just might be a drafting thing on this plan set to give you the benefit.
Thanks.
Paige, continue, please. Sorry, I jumped in on you.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, I just thought we could talk about the pedestrian flow section. If we want to go back to the purview on the, yeah. Section E. There were a few things I thought worth discussion. We talk about projecting a friendly, inviting image. And then as well, the landscaping shall include canopy trees or other shading devices to shade at least 65 to 75% of the sidewalks during the majority of the day.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. That struck me first is the lack of shade.
Yes, I agree.
On the pedestrian access and as well in the community spaces, plaza areas. And then looking at the plant palette, just a general lack of our native species and some plants that I've never seen in Tucson. And there was the plant image sheet, and then there was also a plant table on the plans. And I'm not sure which one, they vary a little bit. But looking at the plant table that was on the plans, I guess there's a lack of specificity when we look at the mesquite. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It seemed like about half or less were native plants. And then there's just a few that just don't specify what plant. It just says like prickly pear or agave. And then
Paige, I may be able to help you out here. If we could go to the plant schedule sheet, which I believe is, I can speak to the plants specifically if that would help.
Yeah, it just says agave. It doesn't say what kind. And then the yucca that's listed is not a native yucca. And I kind of think tying this back to the wording of a friendly, inviting image in my this is very subjective, but that would be one that reflects our the local context of the Sonoran Desert. And so there's a lot of species in here that just don't do that.
And I think that's about as far as we need to dig into that one, Paige. I think because I know like we have this conversation a lot on these plants. in my opinion, these plans still need to go through permitting, and there's like 3 more processes that they need to go through. So they have opportunity to revise plan sets and make these changes. So I'm on page with you guys, pardon the pun. Let's make a recommendation that some of these species be dialed in tighter to our native Arizona plant palette in general, at least. It is Bass Pro Shop, so there's likely going to be some pushback because they have a product and a marketing, design palette that they'd like to maintain. I have a feeling, but I think that's a valid comment, especially within this part F that you're bringing up, Paige. I think that's a point. And the other one, I think, within the landscaping that we really should dial in on is the 65 to 75% shade.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did
There are
just
some
want to.
shade elements in the plan. Like if you go to Costco in general, they've kind of taken on the same idea. There's some structured shade, ramadas and things like that along the walkways. But I almost feel like this requirement should have a shade study, like we would do on the front yard of a Rio Nuevo, part of one of our purviews. Like I don't see anything in the plan set that even tries to demonstrate that there's meeting this requirement other than
that's what
looking at it.
I was going to suggest, almost a shade study, because it does explicitly say 65 to 75% of the sidewalks shaded.
Right.
And I don't see it in the planting plan. And
I believe somebody had a comment.
There was another hand up I
Hi.
saw when I was blathering on
Yeah.
about nothing.
It's okay. This is Mandy again. We're leading the charge on development and building submittals, and I did want to clarify the planting thing. We have already gone through one round of development review. That current slide y'all were looking at from the DRC, some of those plans have changed. The most current civil set of plans that is part of our package here does have revised plans under landscaping that may have a slightly different palette. And I just wanted to bring that to the attention that we are working with the city and the landscape reviewers and whatnot on those topics and taking all of their notes into consideration.
And that also includes the shade because of the adjustment in the plant species and what they're doing. So yeah, we're picking up on meeting those percentages.
Did you get comments regarding the water harvesting as well? That's one of the things that Carol mentioned from the city.
I think the civil is looking at that, but I would entertain any comments that you have. I'd like to hear some of your thoughts on those things also. But yeah, we are looking at that as far as how we're grading and then the water harvest.
I believe there might be some language in the PAD that provides some relief from City of Tucson water harvesting requirements, but I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. But if you go to your site grading plan, the actual drawing, I'm not sure what sheet number it is in the packet we received. Let me see if I can find that. Plant legend. Basically, what I'm seeing is a general sheet flow. Let's get to that sheet first. Easement plan. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, there we go. Thought I saw the overall grading.
Spot grading. Okay.
Is that the one you
I
would
think maybe we
like to see?
passed it.
Spot grading.
It was like a
Yeah, just
overall. There we go.
Yes, there you
Overall
go.
grade.
Thank you. Thank you. Generally speaking, the flow is going to our left. It's going across this sea of asphalt. And yet within the sea of asphalt, you have these planters with curbs, with no curb breaks for allowing the sheet flow that's moving across the asphalt to infiltrate into the planting areas. I would like to suggest perhaps greater attention be given to overall water harvesting in that regard.
So noted. Thank you.
Yeah, every single, you might look at rather than curb planting areas is depressed planting areas with no curbs, and that you use wheel stops to stop cars from bumping into the trees.
Yes.
And that can be done throughout the site.
Okay.
Just depressed planting areas with wheel stops. Cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're on water, I have a general question. Where's your water storage? There's a lot of impervious surfacing with not a lot of pervious surfacing on this property. Are you directing towards a generalized bridges detention basin, or is there, where's all this water go that's going basically
there
west?
are a number of drop inlets. That's a great question, Chris.
Or is this all storm draining? Do we know?
I believe it's all storm draining. I don't think there's any on-site retention.
I also wanted to call out possible opportunity for breaking up the large concrete at the entrance and an opportunity to provide more shade in that area. It's just like a mass of concrete in the front. And I understand there's a lot of need for pedestrian flow to the shop. But there also could be breaks in that concrete with more palms. I imagine there's probably an intention to like keep visibility of the building and not blocking it with leafy trees. But more palms would provide more shade.
Can I share my screen real quick just to get a clarification?
Please.
Okay. So this is the area you're speaking of, right?
Yes,
here?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we can. I know Bass Pro is usually hesitant to block the view of the front of the building, but I think there's some opportunities here to do some landscaping on either side and bring out some of these elements, like you said.
Hey Scott, in add on to that conversation, there are already palm trees and some taller plant material that are tucked up very close to the building.
Mm-hmm.
That, even on, the graphics, I'm not depending on these graphics to tell me what's going on. I'm actually looking at the planting plan, which reflects this graphic actually pretty clearly. But those palms could really be pulled out into an island out in the closer to the pedestrian space. And
Right.
The way the sun aspect is that even if those were pulled out to where that, like the bench was, that would be shading the concrete during the day,
Sure.
So they're, blocking the building. They're already blocking the building, but if we could use them, have them be more functional shade, that would be appreciated. And I think there's a way you could find a middle ground with their product versus shade.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, most of the year it's hot as heck out here, and sitting on concrete on a bench with no shade, it's brutal.
Oh, I bet.
No one's going to be sitting.
Yeah. Also, isn't this a sidewalk? Doesn't it also require 60 to 75% shade? I know it's the front entry of the building and you don't want to block it, but in theory, 60 to 75% shade. Where is it?
That's our point there, Carol, and I think that's one we keep coming back to, and that would be the main reasoning behind the comment of pulling some plant material out into it, or some sort of mechanic shade. I guarantee they park boats out here during heavy business hours to try to sell boats, but that's not our problem.
Right.
Okay. I've been taking notes, so we've been kind of going back and forth between a couple things. So I've been trying to take some notes. Rosemary, you still have your hand up, or is that from before?
I do. I have a couple questions. And one of them pertains to the landscape and shade and paving aspect we've been discussing. 8 feet wide, that's a big wide sidewalk. I'm curious whether any of that can be made into pervious paving, perhaps out of the pedestrian islands that are further out in the parking lot. It's a whole lot of concrete. And it would also help water some of those nice little landscaping areas that you're putting in touch with people, so that the landscaping that's close to humans would be in good shape.
Good point.
So that was one thought. Then I had another question with the PAD. Like, is the building height in compliance, or is there any kind of variance given there?
No, we're in compliance.
Okay.
Yeah, like April indicated, it's the finished floor is 100, and that's where they picked up on that. So it's 60 feet from finished floor to the top.
Okay, just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, to the top of the clear story.
And then one other question. We didn't see a lighting plan. You discussed the lighting, but is there a lighting site plan that you could show to us?
There should have been a photometrics in that package we sent. Yeah, we have that. Let me find it, and then I'll share my screen.
Great, thanks.
And right at the front of right after the landscape plans.
Yeah, Maria, can you go back to your set? There you go.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Nick, you have your hand up?
I do. Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I did want to point out in regards to rainwater harvesting, the PAD document does specifically state development applications within the bridges pad will not require a formal submittal of a rainwater harvesting plan per the City of Tucson's commercial rainwater harvesting ordinance. So they do not need to comply with the traditional rainwater harvesting ordinance that others do outside of the pad.
Thought I remembered that at Bridges.
Well, don't you think, as a member of the community building new infrastructure, that it's the right thing to do your best in terms of passive water harvesting?
Correct.
We have a water issue here in Tucson, in Arizona. Where do you stand on that?
Carol, I think we have that within the conversation we were having with Paige with the like pedestrian flow and central features and community spaces. I think that's part of our local aesthetic and our local community expectations. So I think that's our angle to insert that comment into this project.
I would like to hear from the applicant where they stand on that.
We'll bring that to the attention of Bass Pro They're very much aware of the environment and involved in that conservation. So I think that's a very good comment and will need to be addressed.
Thank you. And as another question, are we looking at the updated plan that was originally discussed at the beginning of this session? Did we determine that?
So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I can't confirm whether or not, basically, I think if they're showing the 8-foot sidewalk as recommended by the DRC, then we're seeing the updated plan. If not, I think it's the same plan set that went to the DRC originally.
To clarify, these are the revised plans per our first round of development review. So this is revised plan. So the DRC, I don't believe actually saw the civil, well, I don't know that the DRC saw the civil plans at that time. They saw the renderings. These are the civil plans that all the development departments have already seen once, and we've already taken their comments into consideration. And so these are the revisions from that you're currently seeing on the screen.
Huh.
And Mr. Chair and Scott, Mandy, just to let you know, the plans to read 160 feet height, building height. It's right there.
Oh.
Wow.
So anyway, just
I thought you
to
maybe
let
had
you
like
know.
boats inside above.
I know.
You know, like a whale.
So that is a.
I raised my hand a moment ago. Mr. Chair, can I say something?
Yes, please.
So I can speak for BASPRO. Carol had make a question about what is BASPRO stand on the water and planting, but I can say that BASPRO is fully committed to conservation in all its aspects. So we will do our best to comply and to create the best environment and context we can to the best of our capacities and abilities. So we will take all comments seriously.
Okay.
I mean, BASPRO is a company that is fully committed to conservation in general. In architecture and in landscape architecture is an important part of what we do. This is our stand. This is what we do in terms of, it's just an extension of what we are as a company. So we take it seriously.
Thank you,
We'll do our
Ivan. Thank you. I appreciate that. And saying that, I would like to take this opportunity to quickly go through the planting palette and give my opinions of 30 years of experience here in the Sonoran Desert, both as a horticulturist and as a landscape architect on your selection. So if we could go to the plant schedule plans.
We'll do our best, and we will communicate this to our landscape architect.
I want to go through some of the species because I know that you guys are going to want to put some of these pines in there. They will not survive given the conditions in which you are planting them. No, it is not up to a landscape architect from California to decide what's best for the Sonoran Desert, if indeed BASS Pro Shops is pro-environmental and into sustainable, resilient landscapes. I believe the planting schedule is, oh, that's right. You called these plants out per species. Okay.
There is a schedule somewhere though.
Yeah, thank you, Paige. I can't
I do remember
it.
seeing that.
Yeah.
It's like at the very front of the set.
No, not the pictures of the plants, the actual schedule of plants. Yeah. Well, we can start with the pictures. Okay.
I thought it was coupled with one of those planting board sheets, or one right before, right after, right?
I think maybe Planting details?
Oh, there it is.
Go up one more.
Sheet
L32.
78.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
well,
There we
one
go.
where you're at 3.2 starts calling out species.
Yeah, let's zoom in so I can read
There,
that.
yeah.
Thank you.
What's white acacia?
It's
I think
good.
it's
Okay.
maybe white thorn.
Oh, yeah.
Prosopis species. Okay. You have Chilean, Argentinian, the native Prosopis velutina. Those are hard to find. It's hard to really specify species of mesquites, but if possible, the native species Prosopis velutina. The Syzygium Hybrid Desert Museum. The hybrid desert palo verdes are terrible trees. They are short-lived. They get wind throw. They are not.
Hey, Carol, can we, like, that's a personal opinion on that tree. Like, these are all, like, let's keep it.
It's experience. That's what I'm bringing to the table.
But that tree is not an illegal tree in this city.
Okay.
It's on the Arizona Department of Water Resources. It's still a very popular and commercially available tree that provides the context that we need. There's definitely debate whether or not it's still the preferred Cercidium, but let's try to keep this productive and useful and giving these folks some feedback and not get into the nitty gritties of if they want to try Cercidiums, they're more than happy to try Cercidiums out there.
The Italian stone pine is probably the most drought tolerant of the stone pines, but the Afghan pine, they're both borderline, but may make it. You also had, the Arizona cypress. Unless it's in a shaded northeast microclimate, that will not make it. The Arizona cypress starts in at an elevation of about 7,000 feet here in the Sonoran Desert, not at 3,000 foot elevation. The Salvia agaves, well, whatever, I won't. The Strelitzia regia, bird of paradise, is a very high water use. They'll burn out unless you have them with augmented irrigation. The Pennisetum cetaceum cuprium, the purple fountain grass, that is a non-viable seed grass that is related to the fountain grass, which has become a noxious weed here in Arizona. Over 2 or 3 years, the purple fountain grass seed does become viable. It switches back to its original parent plant. I do not recommend that plant.
So I think I'd like to add a summary onto what Carol was just pointing out to this, that I think there may be some opportunity to make some revisions to this planting palette. If this planting palette, especially the Pennisetum, I think that is on the borderline of being a noxious plant in Arizona currently. There's other plants that can fulfill that look and vibe that are much more suitable. But I think if this client wants to proceed with this planting palette, I'd recommend that they seriously look at a vigorous or a little more intense irrigation system as far as separation of plant material and putting things on different zones. Just looking at the trees, the tree zones in general these trees would have very widely varying water needs within the site, and to irrigate them all the same would likely have bad results. So if they're going to move forward with this, some of these plants are on the margins or on the edges of being viable in this market. So they would definitely need some extra care or attention, and I'd recommend looking at a couple of these species. Right, Carol, does that vibe with where you're going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, also the queen palm, that's not shown on this list because it's not on this sheet, but the queen palm is frost sensitive. They will die here when we get hard freezes.
Mine's doing
And-
awesome.
Pardon me?
Mine's doing awesome.
And some microclimates, but they don't understand the microclimates they're working with. So that's why I'm saying what I am.
Yeah. There's definitely some pockets and some plantings. I've seen some of the locations of some of these plants we're discussing currently, Carol, that are out in, reflected heat and dry hot. So I would recommend looking at taking another pass through the landscape plan to make sure this thing is setting it up for success.
Right.
And I did notice in the grading plan, Carol and Paige, since we were talking about water harvesting, there is a general note to depress all landscape areas 6 to 9 inches. So they're already starting to head down that road. I'd like to figure out a way to add that to our comments to nudge them a little harder into that to collect.
Also, I think I saw in the planting detail that they're using bark as their mulch. Yeah, so they might want to revisit that for graded rock, half inch, quarter inch, 3/4 inch screened rock as their mulch rather than bark. And we do that here because of our intense flooding that occurs during monsoons. And what that does is just lift the bark up and float it out.
Okay. I have a couple technical items I'd like to move back to that are within the list that we have under E on pedestrian flow. I see, and I'm not sure the thinking or the reasoning behind it. If we look at page 73, whoever's in charge of the screen here, Maria, I think it might be. And if we look at the main plaza entry, there's your customized fish pedestrian crossings, but they line up with vehicle crossings and not with the actual pedestrian location. So starting from sheet left to right, you have the handicapped EV sites, and they have a walkway that comes down the middle, but that walkway just dumps into the road, but the safe pedestrian crossing goes into the PAL. And same with same with on the right side, the opposite side of the plaza. I'd like to recommend that those areas get reevaluated and looked at, that your pedestrian flow from these spaces aren't protected to the plaza.
Yeah, good catch, Chris. They're not lining up with their designated sidewalks.
Correct. And if you scroll one more over to your sheet right, Maria.
Oh my God.
Coming off this lower right corner, what you can see is your main connection to Costco, to one of their major pedestrian. I'd like to see some sort of crosswalk in this. So this is a major pedestrian connection to our adjacent properties heading to the east or the southeast. There's no real connection to your plaza from that pedestrian. And I'd assume the comment from the Bridges DRC about pedestrian connection to the hotel to the west is still standing. I don't see a very good connection to that. So I think in general, I haven't looked at all crossings, but I'm likely going to add a comment that pedestrian crossings need to be reevaluated. I have a general question for the design team. Is there an indication of what the material actually is for the unpaved bike path and pedestrian gathering space on the south side? Just everywhere I looked, it just keeps saying unpaved. I haven't seen a construction detail or may have not looking close enough.
I didn't see one, but I didn't look real close either.
Verify that, but I'm believing it's gravel.
I know the other, maybe another note on these plans as you're moving forwards to maybe make a note to match adjacent properties in material, because the hotel and Costco both have this path installed. So if you want to make it continuous, that maybe there's a note or some sort of indication that that it's matching materials.
Sure.
And is that gathering area on the south side of the property intended to also be servicing this building, or is it isolated from the building? Because I don't see a clear pedestrian path from the pro shops to that gathering space. Like if someone was riding their bike along there, how would they get to past pro shops?
If you're talking about the one by the highway side, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's just for bicycles and people in bicycles to have some shade and an opportunity to rest or to stop for a minute in that area. Right. It's not exactly for the store.
But none of those bicyclists will be.
There is a bicycle a path that was indicated on that we had to comply with.
Correct, but the comment I'm making is part of our purview is pedestrian flow and community spaces. You have a community space there, but there's no connection to your property. Like if someone was a pedestrian and not just on a bike, or even if they were just on a bike, there's no real connection to this development.
You are right.
I'm recommending that we provide one.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make one more comment connecting with what Chris was discussing. I think it's important to align where you have concrete aprons with the pedestrian walkways so that when people take their shopping carts out to the parking lot, they have a nice smooth transition down. It doesn't look like all those are quite aligned.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be making the comment that pedestrian flow in and out of the main core of this needs another evaluation. There's a number of items.
Chris, is the shade study on that list of items?
Excuse me? I didn't hear that.
Is the shade?
Yeah,
I was wondering if you're going to recommend that they come back with a shade study.
I'm not sure how I think we can have a discussion about the shade. I have it in my notes. I think we're going to come back to a couple things and consolidate these down to more concise comments. I have a question for staff. I think, Nick, you might be the answer on this. We have outdoor storage spaces, and I think there's a semantics being played where this is an outdoor boat showroom. Is that actually a storage? What's the definition of storage? Those boats are permanently stored outside, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right. So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, the area you're talking about there would be considered GFA for the overall use. I'm not sure how they're programming that space, whether or not they're actually storing merchandise there, or if it's there for temporary display only. I don't know if it formally meets a storage definition or not, but it does count towards their overall GFA for the large retail establishment. And Mr. Chair, if I could add that that is an item in your purview to comment on, that would be item J, outdoor sales display.
I didn't even make it down that far. This I was looking just at storage. I was like, I don't know if this meets the definition of what the storage, because there's other items in there about loose papers and stuff. And I was like, that doesn't. Yeah, and I guess in general to other members on the board, there are a lot of these areas we're looking at that directly relate back to impacts to residential. We really don't have that here. And adjacent properties are pretty high commercial use, unless we want to start being nitpicky and calling short-term stay hotel residential. I don't think we do, but we don't really have general residential adjacent to this property parcel.
Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, the closest residential zone is this strip here, R2, and it's over 1,000 feet away from the property.
Yeah, and it's even on the other side of Keno, like it's not even an adjacent property.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah.
Are there any other items we need to cover in here? Hearing none.
I don't remember
I
if
think
this
we've
was
covered.
Oh, sorry, I
covered
just
it.
had one question about the last one.
Go ahead.
Does the program include food and beverage sales? I don't remember that from the presentation. Apologies if you covered it already.
They indicated no.
Okay, cool.
You get your hot dogs next door.
Or pizza.
Go to Costco, get a hot dog, and then go to Bass Pro Shops and sit in a boat. All right, I'm gonna go through these one by one real quick and see if we can consolidate some of these comments and comment notes into a recommendation and a vote here and get us out of here. Vehicular access. We're not on an adopted major streets and routes in this interior space. I don't see any challenges with vehicular access. Anyone? No?
Nope.
Buffers, residential, we were just talking about this. Residential properties are quite a distance away. We're adjacent to heavy use commercial. And even with that, I think there is some perimeter landscape around this site, but I'm not sure buffers is pertinent to this review within the context of what they're talking about here. Comments?
Agree.
Outdoor storage, we were just discussing this. I don't think there's any other outdoor storage other than that display area, which we'll hit later. Trash comes up in the next bit. There's a loading zone, but that was pretty well enclosed and defined. So I think outdoor storage is in pretty good shape. trash collection. We discussed that one, and my comment on that was there looks like there's a plan error where there needs to be a small wing wall on the I'm going to call it north and just bend the north arrow north on this page, even though they're tilted a little bit on the north side to comply with the requirement to 8-foot high masonry on sides, and we're okay with their opening screens as long as it's 8 foot opening gates. Paige, you were looking at the trash. Did you have anything else in that space?
No, I think they clarified the design
Okay,
that
yeah.
meets requirements.
You're concerned. You're thinking it was all fencing on all sides. Okay. Okay, so pedestrian flow is one of our big ones. Let's narrow that down.
Yep.
I have to reevaluate the crosswalks and pedestrian flow from parking to the main building. I'm not sure how we want to, let's tackle the shade comment. How do we want to ensure that this is a 65% shade?
Wait, could we go back to your first item about the connections?
Correct, yes.
Did you want to add something about a connection from the bike path and plaza? I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, the
community space to the south. There's definitely an opportunity to pull that into the already existing sidewalk layout. So.
And I'll say before I'm definitely going to put that in as one of our conditions or a comment. And I'd like to just, if the design team looked at the adjacent properties at like Costco or the Homewood Suites, there's great examples of what I'm talking about, of how that bike path connects to their main property use. Thanks, Paige, for reminding me of that one. I had it in here, but it was going to be in a different spot. So shade.
Chris, would you also put the material of the bike path in this section? Just to make sure.
Yeah, I think I'll put it in that same.
Right. And the alignment of crosswalks to existing sidewalks coming off the parking lot, or
yeah,
you
that's
already
in that.
Have that? Okay.
That's in my first one, Tara. I think that
okay.
Just redefining and reevaluating the pedestrian connections from parking to the main building plaza spaces, and in general, they seem to be off.
In terms of addressing the 65 to 75% shade, I think it should definitely go in this category because it's in this category.
It is.
And do we just eyeball it? We ask for, are the tree canopies drawn to full size? I didn't catch that on I think they are.
They look pretty close.
Yeah, so I think, do we want to require an actual shade study, or are we willing just for when they,
I don't know if we can request the shade study because there's no verbiage for it.
Yeah,
really
okay.
To be required.
Right, so we'll just eyeball it with tree canopy when they submit?
I think the statement may be more of we recommend that there's some sort of quantification shown on the plans for the actual zoning examiner review.
Yeah, don't they need to demonstrate they're meeting that?
Correct. And that I'd like to add some language in here that I'd like to emphasize plant tree locations being more generally on the south side of pedestrian movement, where just looking at the plan, it seems like a lot of trees are more on the north side of walkways where there's opportunity. If they just pulled the tree locations around a little bit, they get a much better shade coverage during our hot season.
Yeah, it seems there's been a lack of consideration in terms of comfort of people outside. They don't seem to understand the Sonoran Desert.
Yes. So Paige, the comment that I was leading that into was the discussion we were having around that front main plaza and the shade. Was that more of a shade comment or community central place, central features kind of, context of our space?
Well, I think the plant palette refers to or is tied to the friendly, inviting space. But then there is the need for shade in the plaza and also rainwater harvesting, just more permeability.
Yeah, I think that's, I want to get the rainwater and all those things in number F. I think that's where those things fit.
Okay.
Or number F, right? Letter F. Okay, so pedestrian flow, 65 shade, entry area shade.
Yeah, I think the entry area falls into the 65-70% of sidewalks, Chris.
I put that one on there.
Yeah.
All right, I think F is our big one because it's the most kind of open-ended as far as our interpretation of this. So
maybe I need some clarification. Does that 65% shade, I would think that would apply to plazas as well as they are, or is that just sidewalks?
The way I was interpreting that page was that the plaza space in front of the building is meeting a requirement within other code sections that there is a continuous sidewalk along the front facade of the building wherever it's adjacent to a parking or a POW. So it's a plaza space, but it's functioning as a sidewalk requirement.
Yeah.
So I would say, yes, it needs to meet that also.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because there's that area that's opposite the entry in the parking that's kind of like a plaza, but really it's like a lot of circulation going through there with the central planter, and there's just a lack of shade in that area too.
Right. I think there's another requirement within the PAD that there's functional open space provided. I think that's part of.
Just want to stick to that shade.
Yeah, I think we can make that a pretty concise statement. The shade part. There's.
Do we want to offer some tools on how to demonstrate that? Like maybe at their option, they could do a shade study or a shade plan?
Yeah, I think our language is more they need to show some sort of quantification or analysis that proves that they have meet that requirement. I don't care how they do it. Right.
Right.
So I'm still a little bit. I want to open this discussion up a little bit. Our discussion about landscaping and water harvesting in the plant palette. I'm torn on whether this item F. That's the only place I see where we could incorporate that language, and I think we should, but I think we're even stretching a little bit on that. But I'm in favor of the idea. I just want to figure out and how to put it in the right spot, right? I don't see anywhere else that fits it better.
What?
I wanted to, are they required to use the regulatory list for the Tucson active management area?
The water use, plant water use list? I would assume that's just a general requirement of City of Tucson projects, whether it's in a PAD or not, right?
That's what I would assume too, but
I
don't
would
think
too,
they're
but
working off of that list.
And knowing that list, I don't know if they're not on it. Like, there's some pretty bizarre stuff on that list still.
Yeah, there's stuff that's not on the list.
Yeah, there's stuff that shouldn't, you know.
It's a good base starting point.
But I think our comments in F, but F's really more about like providing pedestrian ways, special features, outdoor plazas, patios. There's nothing in here really about context or you know, our community culture. But I feel this is the one space we have available to us to make that comment.
Special design feature, rainwater harvesting.
Yeah, I think so. I think
native plants.
I think that's our.
To help define the circulation and outdoor spaces.
I think tying back to, the second paragraph in the letter, the introductory letter, talking about their commitment to user experience. I think using a native plant palette as well as passive harvesting just makes sense, and it will actually be less expensive to maintain plants if you harvest the rainwater rather than having to irrigate everything and waste that water runoff.
For sure. I think the overall comment's more of like creating more of a general community space within the parking and, basically this whole project zone within our community. Those are things that are highly valued. And if you want to create a community space, those need to be incorporated. And those are, I'd even call those architectural features within the general defining of architecture, considering I'm a landscape architect. I feel like this is the space to put these ideas. Let me see. I'm going to note in here maybe a reevaluation of the planting palette to be more, should we say water conserving or water use sensitive? My concern is that there's plants that are on both ends of the spectrum. There's plants that require no water and there's plants that require super high water. Nick, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add, I think your comment or condition that I think you're hinting at regarding the plant material is valid. However, the rainwater harvesting, I just want to remind everyone that they do get a pass in this pad, so you could encourage rainwater harvesting, but it will not be something they will be held to in the review process.
Understood. Yes. But as far as our comment that creating community space, I think that in our current development patterns in the city, it's expected within the community that that's a element that is highlighted and is expected to have be used in parking areas, right?
Understood. And I think it's just a matter of how you word it in your motion.
Correct. I don't think we can make any reference to the City of Tucson water harvesting ordinance or any requirements for quantitative analysis of water harvesting, just that they need to provide any at all. The besides just something beyond just dropping planting areas by 6 inches. Okay.
Might we add words of sustainable development, resiliency, Chris?
Sure. I'm looking along the lines of something along the lines of like providing water harvesting and parking areas coordinated with civil to increase the overall resiliency and
Sustainability.
sustainability of the project.
Thank you.
I should have just typed all this stuff out and then we could have sent it to everyone during the instead of having to
Oh,
write
this
all
is
this.
working. This will work.
I am going to add. I'm going to add into
Oh,
this
the
comment
mulch.
that this
The
may
mulch, Chris.
require. Excuse me.
Sorry, the mulch. The mulch is a problem.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's too specific. They'll just hear it and okay.
I think it may be, and if you add the word sustainability to the prior ones, you could probably ask several people in our community about sustainability, and wood mulch would be high on their list for being used here.
For not being used here.
Or for being used here, it's actually becoming.
Yeah, but it floats away. People don't realize that, Chris.
That's a problem when it floats away.
Yeah, well, higher maintenance.
Correct. Anecdotally, we're actually having good luck with it here on campus and not floating away, depending on where it's used. But
Yeah, I think
I'm
it
gonna,
depends on the context.
correct. I'm gonna add a note on here that this water harvesting may require additional coordination and reevaluation of parking slopes with civil, because we're asking them to potentially change grade within their civil plan. Is that agreeable?
Well, depends how they approach it. If they just have
it may require them to reevaluate their civil grading within the parking plan.
Yeah, because their drop inlets could be greatly reduced, and there's for the back slopes they have towards the drop inlets may need to be changed. You're right.
Right. And I'm going to say may in the parking to direct water towards landscape areas. Does that work?
Yeah, direct water and allow to infiltrate into, so they can either get curb cuts in or no curbs.
I'm back on the plant palette. What's acceptable wording for that? Reevaluate their plant palette is about as far as I've got.
Evaluate for greater resiliency in the Sonoran Desert at what's our elevation there at the site? The site at what, 2,500?
Yeah, probably 2,500.
Yeah, they've got plant callouts that occur only naturally at 7,000 feet.
Right. I've been knowing Bass Pro Shops is likely part of their marketing and product identity is having some.
Yeah, the Arizona cypress is sure death. Maybe sorry, maybe the Afghan pine or the Italian stone pine might give the foresty look that they're looking for, but boy, put that in a place where it's going to get high water augmentation.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, I just dropped their design concept into the chat in case it's useful, because it might be a good way to tie it back to what you're discussing. And it talks
Yeah.
about the pedestrian friendly experience, the experience of the user.
We could say something about like local best management practices. LID, I don't know.
Yeah. Sustainable development in terms.
Thanks, Paige. I literally was writing the word context to local, and you said the local best management practices. I was literally finishing that sentence as I was writing it. So I think that's really our kind of overall umbrella on that. We can zero in on the specific plants, but I don't think there's an avenue to do that here.
Yeah.
But I want them to reevaluate the plant palette for greater resiliency and for more context to our local best management practices. Does that kind of cover where we're at, even though we spent a lot of time on it? It's the shortest sentence we have.
I'm good with that.
Does that work? Okay. Because I agree, Carol, with your overall standing and point that some of these trees and plants are going to be tough to maintain and get established. That's kind of the prerogative of a client or an owner, right? If they want to try them and replace them and keep replacing them and not have success with that plant, that I can't.
Yeah, I know.
We don't have that power, right? And you can make the recommendation, but I don't.
Right.
I agree. I just think we're stuck, right?
Revive water harvesting.
I have everything that I had notes on: trash enclosure, pedestrian access, PAL, crossing.
Did you? Rosemary's comment about possible pervious paving for their pedestrian pathways. Yep, that was a good comment, I thought.
Just as a side note to that comment, it seems as though in our climate, the permeable paving solutions we have that work here sometimes contradict ADA requirements. So I want them to investigate that, but I want to make sure that they're doing it correctly.
Also, Chris, your question regarding, is this stormwater drain or is it detention water outlet from the site drainage?
Yeah.
And it's stormwater. Aren't there detention basins in that site that they could direct it to?
I don't remember any in Bridges, or like beyond it. It's all one property, so that's where they likely get away with some of that.
Yeah, it's a shame because it's a big
I think
property.
it all goes to that. There's a central wash through the middle of the site. And I think most of the site ends up draining into that wash down the middle.
Yeah, I was wondering if it goes into that. It's just to the north.
Yeah, I can't remember how it gets there, but it's one of the benefits of using a PAD. You get to look at an entire site, and each site doesn't have to do its own.
Well, if it's into our sewer as stormwater, I'm sorry, maybe I'm confused. Do we know where this water's going? Is it into our sewer, or does it daylight into an existing wash? There's a big difference there, of course.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's in our purview. That's more of a Pima County stormwater.
Seeing a lot of
It's drained
outlets
into
into
the storm
wash.
system. Sorry.
Oh.
It's drained into the storm system. It connects to the storm system.
Right. Whether or not Bridges storm system goes to, there's a 48-inch storm drain on the kind of northwest corner.
Could you share your screen, Chris? Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I'm asking a lot.
I think whoever's in charge of the main screen can do that. Going to sheet 55.
Oh, thank you. Let's look at that, because that's.
If you look in the kind of top left corner of that parking area, there's a connection to a 48-inch storm drain. think most of these all connect up to that connection.
Yeah, and then we're a 48-inch storm drain, and I'm sorry, do we know where that 48-inch storm drain goes to? Does it daylight or does it go to our sewer system? We don't
No one
know.
knows.
Oh boy, that's all the more reason to reduce. Well, what should we do about that? That can be
Well,
better.
I'm seeing a lot of outlets into the wash, like along the road
Correct.
on both sides of the wash from these properties. I'm gonna, it is an assumption, but it looks like this water is being directed into that. But we don't know.
But I'm going to make the assumption that this meets, other review board or other, regulatory requirements. So,
Chris, I wouldn't. I would ask whatever entity would review that they review that. I wouldn't make that assumption.
well, it's that, I mean, they're going to review that before this can get building permits and before they can get C of O's, they need to get the stormwater done. It's not really our purview.
Right, you're correct, Mr. Chair.
I think our recommendation that they collect some of this water on site may help them with some of their sizing if they wanted to take advantage of that opportunity. There are opportunities within the Pima County code and within City of Tucson codes. So I think they could use that to some of their sizing if they wanted to.
For sure.
We have anything else? Delivery and loading spaces. That one felt like we were pretty good. They have a nice loading zone there that's tucked away and well developed. We have any control over that truck noise? It's mostly due to residential. I did see within traffic impacts, I did see there was short-term and long-term bike parking provided, which is something I usually look for. And there was note within the presentation that ADOT had requested another evaluation on some traffic management. I don't know if I have any comments on that.
No.
I recall Scott mentioning that was in the works.
Correct. Outdoor lighting.
We didn't. They said they had it, but it wasn't. Was it included?
It was.
It is.
Outdoor lighting. Yeah, we looked at that.
Okay.
But we're quite distant from residential. Actually, just I don't think we have any negative impacts on residential or residential zone properties. Outdoor store sales displays. They do have that one area on the side for boats, but it was a little nebulous whether that was truly an outdoor sales display. And it's not really adjacent to any residential use, so I don't think we have any challenges there. And then KL and M, I don't believe we have any of those issues here. Any other comments from the board?
Not for me.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
Luckily, I was writing these down, so I have a feeling I'm in charge of the motion since I'm the one with the notes.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay, let me read through these and make sure I can even read my own handwriting, which is typically a challenge. You'd think as a 50-year-old man I'd be able to write, but
Chris, are you, well, let's just maybe keep this simple. Are you setting to approve or deny this request? Because denial would be a slam dunk.
I don't see.
I can't hear you.
Truthfully, I think the items that we've
identified
and looked at are adjustments that they can make within the process they're moving into. I don't.
What about the 65-75% shade? That was a big one, and that's part of their written document.
Correct, and I think our the comment I have here is that moving to the zoning examiner, their next step in this process, that be that a quantification of that meeting that requirement be provided for that review.
And Mr. Chairman, members of the DRB, there's no zoning examiner's process involved for this project. It's just a development package review, which you are a part of.
Explain that, Maria.
Yeah.
We're not following our. You mentioned that there's zoning examiners mentioned in this documentation.
The zoning administrator.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's the zoning administrator. So basically, it's a review of the development package.
So I'm sorry to ask this question, but will the zoning administrator fully understand eyes on of 65 to 75% shade? I think that's better for us to review.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, yes. I'd like to jump in. So just, correcting you previously, this does not go to zoning examiner because it is in the PAD, and that was specifically called out in the PAD document that any large retail establishment shall go through the design review component, but not actually result in a zoning examiner public hearing. So this will not be going to a zoning examiner. Regarding your comment about the shade requirement, I might suggest, while I fully agree that's a valid comment, I might suggest if that is your only, concern or potential holdup of not passing this project, along, that maybe you leave that comment as a requirement, and that the applicant needs to demonstrate on their next development package submittal compliance with those standards, and leave it up to them to demonstrate how they achieve that.
Okay, so I want to be clear on this. Our typical function this function currently in this review, we are not just making recommendations, we are making determinations.
You are reviewing the project in compliance with 499D1, okay. So those items A through M, and your comments or your motion will be forwarded to the PDSD director for final approval.
Oh, so
I think we need to review it again.
So I do too. Are we making a recommendation to planning design?
No.
Or are we just providing our comment? Like, do we have a standing? I'm wondering if we have authoritative power here. Like, do we have ability to, like? You
are still in a recommendation kind of authority in this role. So your review of this is essentially outlining whether or not they are in compliance with those items A through M. If there are items that you feel like need a little more work or can be achieved on another submittal of their development package and reviewed by staff, That could be an appropriate motion if you wish. Or if you'd like them to return back at a later meeting, showing compliance with some of the items that you've identified, that is another option as well. But you would need to then continue the item for a future DRB date.
Right. So I guess my the conversation we're currently having is what is the, if we make a comment that, let's use shade as the example, that we would like to make sure that they provide documentation that they meet 65% of a shading of walkways on this site. Who makes that evaluation that they met that recommendation? Is it planning and design?
It would be planning and development services, correct?
Within their just general review, or is there, and that's a requirement, they have to meet that in order to get their permit?
Correct.
So there is some traction and some, it's not just a recommendation that can be followed or not adhered to based on opinion of others.
Correct. So it is specifically called out as an item in one of those in 499D1. So it's not subjective. It wouldn't be a recommendation. They would need to demonstrate compliance with that standard.
So does that help with you, Carol, as far as that? Us making the recommendation that they show compliance, but not have to come back to us.
Well,
that they have
not
to include
really
in their project plan set that's submitted, that they have to provide some graphic or some sort of compliance that they meet that shade requirement.
Not really, because I know the city review department is way overcharged. They have too much work on the hand. I don't totally believe, and I'm sorry, that it will be thoroughly evaluated. Not only do we have the shade, we also have the pedestrian connections.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
There's a
heading
lot to
I'm heading in the same
review, and
direction, Carol.
Pardon me?
I'm kind of heading in the same thought process with you right now.
I think there's too much that needs revision on this plan to trust it in the hands of others who are overtasked. We know they're overtasked. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know if that's a valid reason, but that's what I think.
So if we decide to continue it, what does our motion look like?
I think the conversation we're having right now is whether we approve with conditions that may or may not be adhered to in fall. We have concerns that they may not be adhered to in following reviews, or we deny and have them come back.
Yes.
Is there a middle ground? Is there a continuance without denial, or we have to deny it to see that again?
I think correct. I think we have to deny to have them come back and see it again.
We have to deny it to see the revisions, is my understanding.
Nick, do you have clarity on that? You have your hand up?
Well, actually, maybe Maria can clarify. I believe you could continue it without actually formally denying the application at this point. But Maria, correct me if I'm wrong there. But I did want to just jump in and state, if there is a condition that is formally made in a motion and approved and sent to our director, those conditions would absolutely be adhered to and reviewed to in compliance as a zoning reviewer. So it wouldn't be something that would be missed. It would be a condition through our director's decision process. So it's not something that would fall through the cracks.
Right. I guess my concern is it's not something that director has authority to overrule or say that's not, we don't need to comply with that.
As far as the items that we've discussed to date, the only item there would be the rainwater harvesting.
Correct. That's a little, we're open-ended on that as far as there's
Right.
no, you have to meet city code or some sort of criterion, right? It's a recommendation.
Correct. Right.
So there's some nuance and subjectivity to that comment.
That's the
Correct.
only one, though.
Right, right. Does that make you feel more confident, Carol?
You know, if this is a large, I trust the city. I trust the city review process. When I go for permits and reviews, the reviews are good. But this is a large project, and I just don't think it's going to, the review of our requested revisions will get the attention that we could give it if we did a continuance. I don't know why we're so hesitant to ask for a continuance on this. It's a big project.
Rosemary,
Does it
Paige, you guys
cost?
have opinions here?
Yes, I'm good with continuing if it seems like we really need eyes on this again. I'm also good with approving contingent upon our recommendations and especially the shade being adhered to, and also the pedestrian flow that looks like it needs to be reviewed again. I don't think we need to deny it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, when the DRB does not have sufficient information to confirm if a project is complying with any section of your purview, you have the authority to deny the project. If you feel like there's not enough information for you to evaluate. But you can choose not to deny and just request to return to the DRB.
I think they gave us plenty of information. It just wasn't on target. So I don't think we can deny. Why are we so hesitant to ask for a continuance? Is it extra cost to the applicant, or what is it?
Is Maria, clarify this, is if we do continuance, in my opinion, that's the same application, just we needed more time or we wanted to have the discussion later. Are they, is there availability for them to revise plans and revise their package within a continuance, or is only revision of their submittal allowed there at denial and come back?
It would be up to the applicant's schedule if they want to go ahead and also address other comments by reviewers in the workflow and try to address them as well, and come back to the DRB with revised development package based on your comments and the other reviewers' comments for another DRB review, if I understood your question correctly,
Well,
Mr. Chair.
what I'm getting at is the nuance between denial and continuance.
Yeah.
We continue, do they have ability to revise these plans, or are we just continuing this conversation with the application as it stands?
If you continue, the applicant will need, and based on your motion, will need to revise the materials presented to the DRB at the next meeting, addressing the concerns you have in your motion.
So I want to ask maybe a similar question a different way. So if we continue, does that extend the process, or are they already coming back to PDSD with revisions anyway? So it doesn't hurt anything for us to look at it next month, or are we actually extending their process by asking them to come back?
I imagine there's plenty of comments from reviewers, right, Nick, that they still will need to revise.
Right. Their development package was just resubmitted recently, so it is currently under review. There are a number of comments that are likely not going to fully be addressed in this review, so there is likely at least another submittal on the horizon.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Rosemary.
And Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, I believe the DRB can continue a case only once. So if you decide to continue this case, that second review would be your final review.
Understood.
Yep, understood.
I think in that case, I would recommend we continue.
And also, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, cost of projects are not a purview for the DRB or even for, other reviewers taking a look at this project.
I also think we should go with the continuance. I don't know if Grace wants to weigh in on that.
No, I think continuance sounds good to me.
I'm starting to lean that way also in that item E under our review, the pedestrian flow.
Yeah.
That one is the strongest candidate I have for them to come back. There's safety challenges, and I don't think they're meeting this requirement.
Yeah, it also has the 75% shade thing.
Correct. The shade, and there's some connectivity to adjacent properties and safety issues. So I think on that item alone, I would be willing to entertain that they come back with the continuance on their schedule and show us some good faith effort to mitigate those challenges. And we can include the trash enclosure, which I think is an easy fix, and we'll probably get a comment on that from other reviewers. But the item F is the one that's a little more subjective about plant palette and water harvesting. I think we can still add a comment in there, but
I think we have requested revisions and then recommendations in your comment of continuance, Chris. Right? We have sort of two-prong.
I think it's also there's quite a bit of precedent for this board requesting continuances when it comes to shade and demonstrating that we're meeting shade requirements.
Yeah, it's important.
We have, and I was just trying to think back on how mechanism we used. Did we use denial or did we use continuance to get those shade?
Well, typically continuance.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We rarely have we outright denied a case, Chris. It's usually continuance with the following blah blah blah.
Right, because denial doesn't necessarily trigger a revisit to our board. Correct.
I don't know.
That's my recollection too.
It's just that's our recommendation, that we denied it and it goes off into the world that we didn't like it, or that we didn't think it met or track that we didn't like it, because that's opinion. That we felt it didn't meet the requirements.
Yeah, we've always asked for a continuance with the following revisions, Chris. That's right, the way I remember it working in the past.
Okay, it's been a few months since we've met, so
even longer for us, Chris.
Mr. Chair, no pressure, too. But I need to jump off in a minute here. Yep. Happy to pass along my proxy, but I got to get going.
Yeah, we do. We need to maintain a quorum. So
okay.
I'd like to entertain a motion and for continuance. And
let's put up that thing that you do, Miss Maria.
I think. Well, that's
Yeah.
the Rio Nuevo ones.
Yeah, there we go. Huh.
Yeah, continuance. I think we usually just ad lib it a little bit.
Okay.
I think I'll still put together the motion since I have the notes in front of me. Unless we want to just make it as open-ended as not in compliant with letter E of section 499 D1.
But then we wouldn't have the two-prong approach of not in compliance with and with the following recommendations that allows us to get the water harvesting and plant stuff in.
Yeah, and then the recommendations of F. That's where we add the recommendations of
Correct.
evaluating plant palette and looking at water harvesting. But all of this is umbrellaed under a continuation that they come back to the design review board
Correct. Yep, you got
on
it.
their schedule.
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna make a motion. So Maria, I'm making a formal motion now.
Okay.
Design review boards review the applicant's project for compliance with large retail establishment design standards and recommends to the planning and development services director. Actually, no, strike all of that because we're not going to make a recommendation to them. The design review board, DRB, has reviewed the applicant's project for compliance with the large retail establishment design standards and requests the continuance.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you are not requesting the continuance. You are deciding to continue. So requesting the applicant to return with the following plan.
Sure, we're requesting
the
the
applicant
applicant
to return.
We're doing a continuance act, requesting the applicant return. And we're finding that the design standards set forth in UDC 4.9.9.D.1 require adjustments to the plans per section E, pedestrian movement, and they evaluate the pedestrian movement around parking and access lanes, bike paths, and connection to community space, and provide quantitative analysis showing 65% shade for all walkways, paths, and plaza areas. And item F, that there's an evaluation of the plant palette provided for greater resiliency and context to local best management practices, and that water harvesting and parking areas and impermeable surfaces is reevaluated. This may require additional coordination with civil in the parking areas to direct water to landscape areas. And
I'll second that motion.
Paige seconded that. Yays?
Yay.
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 Any noes? Hearing none. Maria, did you catch those requirements of the continuance?
Yes, Mr. Chair. And I have Christina Naya also backing me up here.
Okay. And we also have this meeting is being recorded, so if you need verification, you can go back to the recording.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that ends item 4. That took a minute.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, I would like just to inform the applicant the next DRB meeting is scheduled for Friday, August the 16th, also at 7:30 a.m. If you, Ivan or Scott, if you believe you can have those revised materials ready for the August 16th meeting, if you could please provide them to me as soon as you can on the week of August 12th. I just need to, I'm sorry, of August 5th. I need to make sure to provide the materials to the DRB at least a week in advance. So I will need to provide them to them on August the 9th.
We'll work towards that timeline. Ivan, do you see any issues?
August the 5th, you said?
During the week of August 5th. The latest would be August 8th.
So the end of next week.
I mean, many of those changes will need to be revised and implemented by the landscape architect. So it's a question also for Ray. I
Right.
can talk for him. So hopefully, yes.
And you can talk more between yourselves. There's also the September meeting. So, and I can always request the DRB if they are willing to move a September meeting closer to the end of August.
We'll work towards getting that put together, and we will keep you informed of our timeline.
Yeah, continuance is on your schedule as far as I'm concerned. I want you guys to do it right, not fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maria, or I believe it's Nick, who has direct contact to the development staff. The portal is locked since since we're in review. Are you guys able to ensure that we have the ability to upload attachments should we be able to meet the 8/8 date? I know I had to go through Heather to get that kind of reopened.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, Mandy. Just let me, or I believe you've been given the contact of Lauren Seamus, who's going to be replacing Heather in her retirement. So, yep, go ahead and let one of us know, and we'll certainly allow that to happen and let you upload the documents.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that concludes item 4. Any announcements, Maria?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB. As you know, Nathan concluded his 2 terms as a DRB member, and we're really appreciative of his time and efforts, his knowledge, his expertise. And so we're still in search for another contractor to be a member of the DRB. So I'm gonna request of you if you can please pass the word and see if somebody who lives within City of Tucson limits is willing to serve in the DRB, to please give them my contact information. That would be great. And also Susanna Dickinson decided not to continue with a 2nd term. So we are also in search of a registered architect. So if you can also help us, let people know if they live within City of Tucson, if they can contact me, and we'll take them from there. That would be very helpful. And although you haven't been called into action for the past few months, there's quite a bit of projects that have been cooking in the background. So I'm anticipating, in addition to this case that had just been reviewed by the DRB, that you will also be taking a look at the expansion of the Bata restaurant on Toole Avenue in downtown. They want to open outdoor seating area in the rear of their parcel. So we're just trying to determine at this point if they can comply with some parking requirements that are kicking in. If they can, then they just need the Rio Nuevo area review. So that's coming your way. Oh my God, there's so many of them. That's one of the projects I can't remember right now. But yeah, there's several of them coming in your way in a near future.
So Maria, if that's the case, can I make a recommendation that we only do 2 at a time? When we've tried to do 3 or more in a single meeting, those meetings have gone into this time length period. Like if we can figure out a way to space them a little better so we can give each applicant the time due without burdening the board with 3-hour meetings.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we always play it by ear, like on this case, this project, or like the previous project, the Presidio reactivation. We knew there were big projects and we tried to fit them just in one schedule. There's nothing on the code that makes us stop an applicant from moving forward if there's too many cases. I may still need to put them in the agenda, and if the DRB runs out of time, then they need to be rescheduled. But yeah, we make every effort to make sure that those cases are actually, being reviewed by the DRB when the applicant submits on time for DRB review.
Just a request.
Yes, I understand.
I noticed on the Planning and Development Services website that it lists our DRB meeting as August 9th, like down at the bottom of that page. So I just wanted to call that out, that needs to be updated. I think they have an outdated schedule, because then it says, if you go to not this page, the PDSD page. So
yeah, in their last newsletter. Yeah, I did notice that as well.
And it's got it as like an event, and then you click on it and it just shows like upcoming events. And anyway, it could be a little confusing. Yeah, if you scroll all the way down.
Yeah, and it was in their newsletter too. So yeah.
And then I think if you click on that page, it lists more dates, and I'm not sure that those are correct either.
Okay. Christina, can you take care of that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you. So yeah, it's September 6th. Well, it's August 16th.
It's like off a week.
Yeah, exactly. It's August 16th, and then September 6th and September 20th. October 4th, October 18th. Yeah, all of those need to be revised. Christina, if you could please take care of them.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
We ready to be done?
Yes, well, thank you so much, everybody.
Adjourn 9:50.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Good seeing you again.
Yeah.
That was a long one. Thanks everyone for your time.